when we read about khandhas that these are just conceptual terms for groups or categories, but actually whatever the Buddha taught about is about reality, about Paramattha-Dhamma. So each khandha is actually a reality. Seeing is a khandha, feeling is a khandha, each rupa is a khandha. So no matter whether they are rupa khandhas or vijnana khandha, each reality is a khandha, and the meaning refers to that which arises and falls away. So any visible object, any sound is rupa khandha because it is conditioned, it arises and falls away, and as you said, can be the object of clinging. So whatever arises and falls away is khandha. When it is the object of clinging, it is upadana khandha, the object of clinging. Even the rupas of the Buddha's body are upadana khandha because they're the object of clinging by others just at those moments. So it's not just a categorization, but it's actually pointing to the nature of those realities which arise and fall away. And so any rupa at all is rupa khandha. Any vedana, any feeling is vedana khandha. Any sanya is sanya khandha. And I think your question, what you mentioned was about sankhara and vijnana. So which would you like to discuss first, sankhara or vijnana? Because they're both deep topics.
I guess vijnana, because I think I have some idea of volition in the wholesome and the unwholesome.
We'll come back to sankhara afterwards because there are many different meanings, so we need to understand exactly what is being referred to here in this context. So vijnana, as you mentioned, whatever chitta arises and falls away is vijnana khandha. So in this context, we use the word vijnana. In other contexts, chitta. In other contexts, mano. Exactly the same reality. The moment of experiencing, no matter whether it's seeing or hearing or smelling or tasting or touching or any other chitta and sense door processes, or thinking in the mind or thinking about ideas and fantasies. The chitta itself which thinks, the chitta itself which experiences the object, that is the leader in experiencing the object, is vijnana khandha. So at every moment in life, there is vijnana khandha arising and falling away. No moment in life without vijnana khandha. And it's always momentary. It's always the chitta which arises and falls away. We thinking about some dream for 5 minutes, an hour, but this is just a conventional idea of thinking. The chitta itself, no matter whether it's experiencing a reality or a concept through any doorway, is vijnana khandha, arising and falling away. So far, so good. So we think it's just a category, but it's actually just pointing to the conditioned nature of chitta, which falls away instantly. And this is vijnana khandha. So afterwards, we can talk more about sankhara. So sankhara, as I mentioned, in different contexts have different meanings. For example, when we talk about sabbe sankhara, anicca, dukkha, anatta, all conditioned realities are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self, it's referring to the conditioned nature of any reality at all. when we talk about sankhara in the context of paticca samuppada, dependent origination, we read about punya, punyabhisankhara, apunya abhisankhara, anenja abhisankhara. Here, the sankhara is referring to karma, past karma that brings its results. In other words, chaitana, chaitasika, that has brought results in this life by way of birth and other results, other vipaka, citas, and rupas. But in the context of sankhara khandha, the sankhara is referring to not just chaitana, chaitasika, but any of the 50 chaitasikas which are not Vedana or Sanya, which have already been mentioned, any of the other chaitasikas, so the other 50 chaitasikas, each one arises and falls away and is khandha, it's conditioned, it falls away. Each passa arises and falls away, it is sankhara khandha. Each lobha is sankhara khandha. Any chaitasika is sankhara khandha. So it's chaitana and all the other chaitasikas, each one is khandha. So again, it's not just a category, but it's pointing to those realities right now. The passa now, which experiences the visible object with seeing, which contacts that visible object, is khandha, passa khandha, sankhara khandha. The ekagata chaitasika, which focuses on just one object so that only one object is experienced, is sankhara khandha. The chaitana, this very moment, is sankhara khandha. So that's a start. I'll just check if Ajahn is here now too. Ajahn, are you here now?
Yes, I'm here now. Sawadee.
Sawadee, Ajahn.
Sawadee,
I think you may remember at the weekend, Drake brought up a question at the end, and we said we'll discuss it in more detail today. And you made a comment, one word at a time. So we've just been discussing the meaning of khandha and the meaning of vijnana and the meaning of sankhara, which his question related to. And I just asked Drake, just following that discussion, if you have, I think your question was how they related to understanding this moment. Any points, any more further points on that point, on that topic?
Because each word we heard can condition the understanding of what is there now. Because no understanding at all of what is there, if there's no hearing about the truth of it, even just one word, Dhamma, see, Sankhara, Dhamma, Anatta, just one word is there here and now. So we learn about the truth of what is there, which is not known at all. If we don't talk about it, to begin to consider the truth of it right now. That's why even Dhamma is all around here. Eyes now, ears now, nose, tongue, body, thinking, and so on. But no understanding of the truth. That's why we learn to understand what is there from birth, so close. Even Dhamma, whatever is there, which is real, is there, so real. That is the meaning of Dhamma, whatever is real. So when we talk about Dhamma, or dhammas are anatta. All, so we learn to understand little by little about the truth of what is there, just one reality at a time, one word at a time, which is so broad and so deep to understand the truth of it, which is there right now as we're talking about it one by one. So now just one word, what is that? To begin to consider broadly, deeply, that is there unknown. To know it little by little. So which one word now?
Satanya? I didn't know that word.
Pardon? What's the word?
Satanya? I'm not sure what that refers to, but
Chaitana cup.
Please spell.
Chaitana Ajan. Chaitana Chaitasika.
Chaitana Chaitasika. Is there any intention now? About what is that?
Yeah. The intention to understand, and for the purpose of liberation, for letting go.
Even moving one's hand, is there no will or chaitana or intention, or it's there?
Mm-hmm.
So in life, what moment doesn't have chaitana, and what moment chaitana is there?
And is that always conditioned by the sana, like the contact, and then the perception recognizes a mark based on past experience, and then it predisposes it to like or dislike, and so there's this instant moving towards or moving away from the object perceived?
So many words now, but we are learning about the reality which is there, to be the one we are talking about, the chaitana. What is it from the very beginning? It's a Dhamma, no one. But there are so many, many Dhammas. So which one is that which use the term chaitana for its characteristic? See, intention is there. But who knows that it intends already at moment of speaking, at moment of thinking, and so on. That's why we learn about just one reality which arises in a day, the intention. So many, what you call, aspect of it, because if it's such and such, the name for it is that and that, because the differences of the variety of only one reality, Chetana, see, Kusala Chetana, Akusala Chetana can be known, but it's not anyone at all. So now, is it Kusala Chetana or not Kusala or Akusala Chetana? See, just learn about the truth in life. So very different by conditions, but we know there is a reality at any moment of doing something, even putting on the shoes and so on and so on. It's there, different kinds of Chetana. That's why we just learn about one reality to let go, very little by little. Take it for I, from years and years ago up to now, to learn to understand it, that it's there. But if you don't talk about it, how can it let go? The idea of I want to do this, I does not like that, and so on. It's there all the time. But there cannot be just one reality arising by itself. There must be conditions, the other reality, depending on the other, arise together and then fall away. Learn to understand life little by little, to have clear understanding of what is there are only different dhammas, realities, conditioned, arising and falling away. So now, when there is the understanding of Chetana, a reality which arises and it performs its function as it is, to be known little by little, it coordinates and so on, little by little. That is there now, and we're talking about it, and it's not all about it yet. Just learn about it, just one way or another way, little by little. This is the study of Dhamma, the pariyatti, the path, the Four Noble Path, letting go ignorance, Otherwise, what about the result or condition after hearing? It condition what? Ignorance again, more and more, or some understanding of the truth, little by little, and understand it so deep, so very subtle. It's there, but it's not known until the enlightenment of the Buddha is there. So each word out of his enlightenment of the truth, the ultimate truth, nobody can change. It's there only very shortly and then gone. Everything is so very deep because there's arising and falling away so very rapidly. So how can it be known if we don't talk about it to understand it as it is? When we talk about Cetana, it's Cetana. It's not anything else. And it's there. At what moment begin to learn to understand it, even it's there right now. But if you don't learn about it, that even just talking or anything, it's there. Intention to do, coordinate all dhammas at that moment, to do, perform the function, to just condition a moment of thinking about doing this or that. It's all there in life from moment to moment. Letting go the idea of self, so very little at a time, so very deep. This is the path leading to understanding what is there, until ignorance and attachment up to the idea of self completely never to arise again, now and any moment too. It will lead to such long way and long time to develop the understanding of it right now. Is there any doubt about Cetana? Because it doesn't show up, but it's there to learn about it. Because there's idea, I do, or I, whatever I is there. There is a reality which arises and performs its function unknowingly until it appears, I want to, or I will do, and so on. So Cetana is not wrong understanding. Different realities in a moment. Not just one reality in a moment, but what appears is just one kind, one reality. For example, what is seen now is one reality. Seeing is one reality. Hearing, one reality. Thinking, see, all are there in life. All are dhammas, all are anatta. Is understanding real? A reality. And it's the beginning of the path, sammaditi, right understanding of what is now appearing little by little.
So Drake, as Ajahn has explained, intention in the Dhamma is a mental factor that's arising with every moment of consciousness, because there can't be any consciousness without intention also. So what we take conventionally for intention is obviously not the same as the mental factor of intention just described. So taking the conventional idea of intention, what do you have any idea what that might be?
Is it tanha, craving?
Well, that would depend, I mean, because it will arise with wholesome jittas as well as unwholesome ones.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so it could be desire.
It could be with wholesome jittas.
Like generosity or metta, or like some wholesome intention to perform a kusala deed, like kindness and giving,
Well,
or
but the
to understand.
the formed intention to do something is not just the mental factor of intention, which obviously is going to be present, but it's actually consciously thinking about doing something, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's more of a concept.
Well, it's also a citta. So it's also moments of consciousness in which one forms the idea of taking a certain action or being of doing something or other, even if it's like thinking, okay, I think I need a glass of water. So one does whatever's necessary to do that. But there are moments of intention all the time there. So it shouldn't be confused, the intention as a mental factor with the conventional idea of intending to do something. Because those are moments of thinking.
Is that
Moments
independent
of
origination?
through the mind.
Is that like when we...
Go on.
Oh, in the conventional sense of intention, like when we intend to do something like get a glass of water, is that what the word becoming is? It's like, because there's like contact, feeling, craving, clinging, and becoming. And so it's like at some point, is this a dependent origination like on the momentary scale rather than the lifetime scale? Is that like, is it the becoming is kind of like, okay, we're going to take an act, we're going to produce karma because we're
well, I don't think we think of it in those terms. We don't think of conventional intention, doesn't usually think in terms of such deep consideration. But even if it did, it would still just be moments of thinking, because that intention may or may not be followed by any further action in line with that thinking. So it's not anything special, just ideas forming in the mind. I would like to do such and such. It's time to go to bed or whatever.
And that's not the mental factor of Satan, or the volition. It's a different quality of
it's well, mental factor is there because it's there with every moment of consciousness, as we said before, as Ajahn explained. But I'm just trying to illustrate that the conventional notion of thinking of doing something is quite different from intention as a mental factor that arises with every moment of consciousness.
So Chaitana arises with every citta at every moment. So as we were discussing at the very end of the discussion last week, each citta experiences one object, and each citta is accompanied by at least 7 ceitasikas. And one of these is Chaitana, which arises with every citta. So it always experiences exactly the same object as the citta is accompanying. When it arises with seeing, it experiences visible object. When it arises with hearing, it experiences sound. When it arises with thinking, it experiences the same aramana, the same idea that the thinking citta experiences. And at each moment in life, it coordinates the other ceitasikas in order that they can perform their function, like a head student coordinates the other students to do their tasks. At moments when kusala and akusala cittas arise, the chaitana, which is actually another word for karma at every moment in life, each chaitana is karma. And at those moments of kusala and akusala, if the Chaitana is strong enough, it motivates speech and deeds, which may be of a degree that can bring results. When we're talking about paticca samuppada, as I mentioned before, the Chaitana, the sankhara, refers to past karma that brings results in this lifetime and other lifetimes. And the bhava that you mentioned refers to the karma in this lifetime that brings its result and the birth that is a result. So in this context, the Chaitana refers to the karma that can bring a result. But in fact, Chaitana arises at every moment. So at every moment of life, it always has that quality of coordinating, and it just experiences one object and falls away, quite different from conventional idea of intention, as Jonathan said, which is just a story about having an idea or an intention to do something, usually with the idea of a self that is there. So the purpose of understanding more about khandhas, different realities which are rising and falling away, and understanding about Chaitana, for example, or Vedana in more detail, is to understand that they are just conditioned dhammas arising for a moment, performing their functions and falling away completely. And there's only ever one object, one aramana at a time. And I think that was the point that we left the discussion last week on. Any questions on Chaitana so far, or that point?
So one of the functions of that Chaitana is the coordinating the other mental factors, and I remember one of the themes from these talks was that each moment Chittasika that arises is unselected, and so it can't belong to anyone. It's not chosen by anyone. It falls away so fast that there's no self. So nothing's creating this process. It's being created by conditions that don't belong to anyone. And then is that coordinating function, if the mindfulness and the understanding is there, then it's possible that coordinating function can lead towards jhana or towards access concentration. That one of its functions may be to like applied attention, sustained attention, just to stay on a sign.
Then we're moving to many different topics, but coming back to the Chaitana. So understanding that now Chaitana, it's conditioned. No one can choose what Chaitana will arise with what chitta. No one can choose for seeing to arise now rather than hearing, or for hearing rather than thinking, because the chittas arise and fall away so rapidly. At a moment of thinking, oh, what would I like? It's just thinking about different ideas, quite different from understanding that what arises now, the chitta with Chaitana and Vedana and so on, is conditioned and gone instantly. So any moment in life, no matter at moment of seeing or thinking or any other moment, a little understanding or strong understanding, calm or no calm, Chaitana arises and performs that function and falls away instantly. So any Chaitana is Sankhara Khandha, along with those other Chaitasikas we mentioned.
Drake,
Is it?
if I can just amplify there a moment, just to what Jonathan was saying and what Tanajan Sujin touched on also. These translations, example with Chaitana been translated as intention. Well, wrapped up with that can be the idea of I intend. But that, for obvious reasons, is not to do with the Dhamma as it's understood properly. You know, we can use the word volition also, which is sometimes used as a translation for Chaitana. But that can be equally difficult because the understanding is not in the word. And this is really important to bear in mind, that they convey just different ideas that can help us potentially, or they may not. Because if we've got tendencies for taking hold of the Dhamma incorrectly, those will be reinforced by those words, volition or Chaitana, or by whatever word you're inclined to use. The Dhamma conveys understanding at a profound level, I believe. But however, most of us, most of the time, are not able to do that. So we kind of have to listen very, very carefully if we're fortunate enough, especially to get a wise teacher. And that's very rare in samsara. So I would just really encourage you to keep on listening. And just touching on a point that Tanajan mentioned on earlier, that she's pointing to the nature of conditioned dhammas, that we are not in the equation. Intention arises by its own conditions, and there's nobody there that's needed to coordinate it or to push it in a certain direction. Our accumulations, our sankharas will determine in large measure what direction that these chittas will arise or not. So there's just, I think I find it so helpful, excuse me, well, first of all, to keep listening, but to consider very carefully what this aspect of conditioned dhammas are really about. Otherwise, we will continually be looking for a way for a sneaky self to try to interpret these manners, these factors, which won't be helpful at all. So I really appreciate your questions too, by the way, and really appreciate too your sincere commitment to Dhamma and trying to understand it, because it's a difficult thing, but it's the most worthwhile undertaking. And so I keep on encouraging you to listen and consider very carefully.
Thank you.
We're talking about what can be understood in daily life. That's why we learn about what is there, not about the truth of it yet, but what is there is so true, and there's so many realities at that very moment. But it has to be learned about the truth, which is so very deep. For example, in a day, it's the lopa, attachment. Some may say, oh no, I don't have lopa, because that person take lopa so very strong, liking, dreaming, wanting, attaching, and so on. But the truth is so very deep and subtle. At any moment of what is there, it's not known. At that moment, is the attachment to what? Which is there? Even it's not known. So when we talk about I like it at that moment, if you talk about the nature of likeness, it is just I all the time. But in truth, it's a reality which cling or take it for me or something instantly, because the rapidity of the arising and falling away of all dhammas are unknown at all. That's why the teachings of the Buddha just talk about what is there in life to be known, the truth of it, as it's not self because it's that, and so on. So in the day, do you intend to do anything or none at all? Before we know what is there as a reality, which intend, or no intention at all? no like or dislike at all, no wrong understanding at all, or what? Unknown. That's why we just talk about the very, very subtle reality before it can be known as it just arises and falls away, the first noble truth. But there must be the subtle way to understand the subtle reality. That's why people just read and take it in his own thought to practice or to do. What is that? That's why whatever is real can be studied carefully to realize the truth without any word. For example, when I like something in the day or now, see, I like something, no understanding of what is there at all. But it's there in life as there is intention in life. But what is intention? Is it a reality? Is lopa intent? Or it just attached? It can perform the other function at all. That's why we learn to understand it without word. But without word, there cannot be anything to convey the truth of it, to begin to think about it, that even it's just one reality, but it arises in different moments, so it performs very subtle moment too. For example, the moment of seeing is there. See, it's there who know. But when there is intention to do something, what is it? Is it phassa? Or is it vedana? We just learn the word, but each word just condition understanding to understand the truth of each moment, that actually whatever arises is conditioned and they are different. That is the way it is. Different conditions, different reality. Attachment is a reality. Hatred is a reality. They are conditioned by different conditions. See, that's why just the understanding deeper and deeper of just a reality at this moment, which it does not appear as it is yet, but learn to understand the truth in order to let go ignorance and attachment little by little until it is experienced without any word. Because at moment of seeing, no word, it sees. Hearing, no word, it hears. See? So each reality is there, performing the function unknowingly, when it's not known as it is, one by one, to know that in the moment, what is there is conditioned, arising and falling away, never to return again. So to be this person in this life is so short. After death, disappear, never be found. So what is there now? Just to be disappear. See, that's why learn to understand the truth as much as there can be. Careful considering about each reality to be known, to get closer by letting go ignorance. If there is still ignorance, no understanding of the truth at all. But all kinds of realities are so very subtle, beyond word. No matter we use the word intention, coordinating, motivating, or whatever, it all just help or condition thinking carefully about the nature of it. That's all. And this is pariyati, the first round of the Four Noble Truth. And this is the path, the way to let go ignorance, attachment, and all kinds of akusala, and even kusala. No one. Kusala is not me, it's not anyone. Akusala is not anyone, it's not me or mine. See, the truth is that. So the world, what we take for the world are different realities, conditioned to appear and disappear. instantly, but our reality must and remember it. Just thinking about it, clinging to it, it seems like it's there all the time, but in truth, it's not there. Even right now, no one, only different realities conditioned, arising and falling away. And now, understanding is samadhi, the first of the Eightfold Path. No one. Otherwise, how can it get to deeper understanding of the truth right now as what is there? It's there. Seeing is there from life to life. No understanding of the reality which experiences an object. Why? Because it does not appear, even if there. What appears is that which is seen, heard, smelled, touched, and so on, and thought about. But the reality which arises at birth, the first moment of life, and the truth is that even just one moment, completely gone. Absolutely no. So now, learn to understand what is there now. So close. As close as it's hidden. Is there Chetana now? No matter what word it we use in any language, the Chetana at moment of seeing is not Chetana arising with kusla or akusla. See, different function by different chati. Whether it is kusla or akusla. And kusla is not the moment of seeing. Chetana is there, perform different function, but the same one reality. No matter we use different words, the Chetana cannot be changed, but it depends on the understanding of how deep it is, how broad it is, how true it is, beyond word.
In one of the discussions, I think one when Ajahn wasn't present, Drake, we talked about the distinction between Paramatta Dhammas and concepts. And I remember you mentioned that various namas are feeling, perception, and volition. But the point is, we'll just say, okay, volition is nama, but without understanding what is volition, what is chetana. It will always be the idea of something I do or a situation, not the reality of chetana itself. So the point of being more and more precise about what the reality is, what its function is, which cheetahs it arises with, is to get closer and closer to understanding what the Paramatta Dhamma is, to understand it as a reality that is anatta, that is conditioned, so that the understanding becomes firmer and firmer, that there's no place for anyone to do anything. Nothing can be practiced in life, as we discussed yesterday, because they're just different dhammas arising and falling away by conditions. And I remember you asked about the direct knowing of different realities, such as feeling or memory or sight or sound. But then we think of ideas like body or sensation, or as one friend mentioned yesterday, leg. It seems that there can be awareness of a leg without understanding more carefully about what is Dhamma, what is Paramatta Dhamma at this very moment. We think there is some understanding of what Dhamma is, but it's just our own reading, interpretation, taking the leg and the body for being real, something that I experience, or the feeling that experiences, or we mix up whether Vedana, feeling, is a nama or rupa. So that's why we take one word at a time, like Chetana, and consider more carefully what it is when it arises, and whether anyone can have any volition or any intention, or whether there is just this Cetasika arising, performing its function along with other Cetasikas performing their functions and falling away instantly, all for the purpose of understanding all Dhammas are anatta, nothing that anyone can do at all, even for an instant, because right now the seeing, the Cetana, the other Cetasikas arise and are gone instantly, long before there's any idea of I can do anything. Is it
Drake,
all making sense?
oh, sorry.
I just
Keep going,
asked Drake
Sarah.
if it's all making sense so far.
I think, yes, it is. I very much appreciate this. It's, I wonder if the attention is on the Paramattha Dhammas, if there's kind of a sense of peace that goes with that. It's like, it's encouraging to,
The attention, another Cetasika, Manasikara, also arises with every citta and attends to the object. So if the object experienced at a moment of seeing is visible object, the Manasikara attends to visible object for an instant and then it's gone. If it's sound that is experienced now, the Manasikara attends to that sound. If the object is an idea, at that moment, the Manasikara attends to that idea. At moments of attachment, it is the object that is the object of attachment that the Manasikara attends to. So the Manasikara can be kusala, akusala, vipaka, or kiriya, just like the Chetana, just like the Vedana, just like any of the Cetasikas that arise with every citta. So we cannot assume that because there is Manasikara towards a Paramatta Dhamma, such as sound or visible object, that it is kusala at all. Because if it arises with vipaka citta, it is vipaka. If it arises with akusala citta, even though Paramatta Dhamma is the object, like in the ideal process, then it is akusala manasikara. So this is the reason why it's so helpful to understand a little more about the details. Otherwise, we just assume that attending or concentrating is kusala, when most of the time it's not.
And just briefly, Sandra, before you come in, I'll just add one comment there that we have the idea, perhaps, that the development of the path involves attending to Paramatta Dhammas, but there cannot be attending to a Paramatta Dhamma by choice, by intention to do so, because Paramatta Dhammas do not appear. except to understanding itself. So we can't talk in terms of attending to Paramatadhammas other than as a reference to the moment of actual understanding of the Paramatadhamma, which occurs, of course, by conditions and not by dint of our intention to have understanding or to experience the Paramatadhamma. Sorry, Sundra, please go ahead.
Thanks, Jonathan. Drake, I think you touched on, and Sarah just touched on that a moment ago, and this aspect, and I remember you also alluding to it at some time. This, and you won't really be hearing this too much outside, I don't believe, our particular group, and that's just these concepts of I'll elaborate on that a little bit. Paramata Satya and Sammuti Satya. Now, that loosely translated as higher truths or the beyond truths and conventional truths. And I think it's always useful to bear in mind that if there weren't these Paramata Satyas, these higher truths like hardness, temperature, visual object, and so on, there could not be Sammuti Satya or conventional truths. So the conventional truths of tree, people, things, shoes, or whatever concept we may choose to think about, well, actually, that's not quite clear because some concepts are abstract concepts, but like words like tree, car, and so on, which we might call tangible concepts, if you like, they are utterly dependent upon Paramata Satya. So when there is the touching of a car, for example, there'll be either temperature, depends where you are. In this part of Australia at the moment, it's very, 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 very hot. So it's inclined to be very hot. But and that is a Paramata Satya. That experience at that particular moment of temperature is Paramata Satya. That's the conventional truth. And so all the different experiences we have of these different rupa are like when we come up with these different ideas, they're utterly dependent upon these Paramata Satyas. And that's how we get this conventional idea of the world. The world could not exist. It would not exist unless there were these Paramata Satyas. So it's really valuable aspect of Dhamma to consider carefully and to understand what are these Paramata Satyas. And this is what Tanajan and Sarah and Jonathan and others are often speaking about. It's not these different concepts. We can't understand these deeper truths, the Paramata Satya or the beyond truths, when we purely come at it from the conventional idea of a world, however we may conceive that to be. So it's really valuable to consider what are these Paramata Satyas that the conceptual world is totally dependent upon. And of course, we will know that these conventional truths, which are based upon the ultimate truths, are often just a big story. There's nothing to do with reality in its ultimate sense. It's just they're conventional truths, and we can say they're conventionally true, but they're not ultimately true. That's useful to consider because we often get very, very seduced and enchanted by these conventional truths, however we conceive them to be. Some people are really attached to cars, and some other people have all sorts of predilections and proclivities. So because of their attachment to the conventional world. But so I think it's a useful point that Sarah reminded me of, that this aspect of Paramata Satya, or ultimate truths, and conventional truths, and they're really important to tease apart and have a clear idea in our mind of which is which. Because, as I said, when I've sometimes listened to other Dhamma teachers, they don't talk about this area at all. And I feel that's unfortunate because I think it is essentially the heart of the Dhamma, these Paramatta Satyas.
I'm just wondering if anyone else, Anne or Alberto, for example, have any topic, or Zita have anything they would like to bring up today, or Sundara yourself, anyone?
Well, I always appreciate Tanajan because I think we're very fortunate that she's still with us, and I really appreciate Tanajan, your the way you not only, of course, for us English speakers, but no doubt, obviously too, for many Thais. But if I could ask you, if someone was asking you about Paramatta Satya, what would your response be? Thank you.
Paramatta, is it real?
Absolutely, Tanajan.
And Satya is the truth of it, right?
Jinka.
So when we talk about Paramatta Satya, the truth of that which is real. For example, seeing is real, but what is the truth of it?
Yeah, that's the difficult one, Tanajan.
That's why that without understanding what is true and what is real, there cannot be the understanding of anything which appears, because they do not appear as they are at all. Arising and falling away, see, does anything arise and fall away now? But what is the truth? Paramatta Satya, the ultimate truth. Before it arises, it's not there. As soon as it has risen, it's gone. This is so very true, but it needs very careful understanding to understand each reality, because when they are together, something is there. No understanding of any truth at all, of one reality at a time. For example, there is seeing, see, right now, no doubt, but no understanding of the truth of it. So seeing is samudhisatya of that which is paramadadasa. When there's no paramadadasa, how can there be samudhisatya? But paramadasatya is not realized yet. That's why the idea of something is there, but not about the truth. But when it's about the truth, it is samudhisatya, depending on level of the truth. For example, he's a king. It's true, samudhisatya. But seeing is real, is paramadasatya and samudhisatya by words. But the word can be changed. Instead of saying seeing, we can change to any word. But the truth cannot be changed. Paramatta Satya cannot be changed. So there are many meaning of Sammuti too. But Sammuti Satya is true as it is in words.
Ajahn, can you explain what you meant just a minute ago? Samuti Satya is true?
Yes, in words. I am talking to Kun Anne. Is it true?
In words.
Anne, yeah, and I.
Yes. Yes.
But
Rather than the understanding of the ultimate truth, because there is no and, there is no Ajahn Suchin, but there are Chitta, Chaittasika, and Rupas that interact.
And when we say, I'm talking to Kun Anne, everyone know it is
Yeah.
Samuti.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, it's what we agree upon conventionally. You know, all these different appellations, as Tanajan has referred to, be it yourself, Anne, or others, and we need these to navigate our way, you know, in life. You need these conventional appellations or conventional names or words, and of course, these conventional words enable us to develop understanding. If we didn't have,
And that, sorry.
that's all right. You continue, Jonathan.
Thanks, Sundara. I was just going to add, and that conventional truth can be spoken or thought with understanding, with right view of the way things are, or with wrong understanding of the way things are, or with neither right understanding nor wrong understanding. And probably now for most of us at this moment, it's neither right understanding nor wrong understanding, because there's not the belief that there is an Anne on the screen or anything like that. And probably it's not right understanding because awareness is not sufficiently developed for there to be direct understanding of some reality at the present moment. So it can be with neither right nor wrong understanding. And that's, I think, how our day is lived. It's all, we live in the world of concepts, but that in itself does not necessarily imply wrong understanding. It's just a fact of life in samsara that the world is conceived, is conceptualized. The paramatta experiences are conceptualized in terms of people and things. And these are samuti satcha. This person has that name, that person has that name, or that's a table, that's a chair, etc. These are all samuti satcha. But it depends on the mental state of the individual at that moment as to whether it's kusala or akusala. And if akusala, whether it's right view, wrong view, or without wrong view. Thank you.
And when we forget the name Anne and use another name conventionally, we will say it's wrong memory and wrong attention, Drake. But who knows the chitta at that moment? Just as when we say, hello, Anne, conventionally we assume it's right memory and right attention. But when we're considering the nature of the chitta, kusala and akusala, at the moment of using the right name, it may be thinking with attachment, thinking with ignorance. Who knows? At the moment of using the wrong name, who knows? There may be a moment of kindness, a moment of kusala. So we cannot judge by the situation and the words used. What is important is the nature of the chitta at those moments.
I was just thinking to Drake, because Tanajan touched on this just a moment ago. She talked about the different jatis, and I thought that may not be so clear to you. So we've got 4 jatis, and Jonathan has just alluded to that also. They are kusala, akusala, kiriya, and vipaka. So all chitta will fall into one of those 4 categories. And for us, mostly, it's bound to be a kusala. But as understanding grows in some levels of letting go, shall we say, there can be more conditions for kusala. But as you touched on earlier on also, you talked about giving and moments of kindness, being friendly and agreeable, although, and Jonathan just kind of touched on this too, they can be kusala, but of course they can be akusala, just attachment or affection, which is another Pali word, or prema, which is another sort of version of lobha. So it's a difficult path and a subtle path, but by slowly considering carefully, and Tanajan would always remind us about the reality that's appearing now, because that's in accordance with truth. And I do believe that the understanding of the present reality, whatever that may be for you, sound, hardness, or whatever, that is in accordance with the truth. And Tanajan is always talking about being truthful to that truth that appears.
Yeah, I remember where it was like the suggestion to recognize the characteristics, like so you could recognize dosa in a moment when dosa is arising, or lobha, desire. But I now was curious: is it possible to ever recognize the moha, the characteristic of delusion, in a moment of delusion, like, or if that's kind of an.
Well, I think Sarah touched on this recently. Sometimes I'll just be thinking about these different concepts, and it may not be so helpful, because I think it's always important to come back to what can be understood and the reality that appears. And perhaps moha at this stage in our understanding, although it can be helpful, I don't dismiss that, to get an intellectual grasp on just what it's about. But I think it's so valuable to come back to the reality that appears, because that can be known. If delusion or moha is not arising, and even when it is, sometimes I think from what I understand, it's not always easy to understand as being that. And I don't worry too much about trying to have a clear understanding of it, of a reality that hasn't arisen, that'll just mostly be thinking about it. The thinking is real. The objects of thinking, as you know, are not real. So we can only develop understanding of the reality that appears, and little by little, other realities will become clearer. However, I don't want to be dismissive of trying to understand these different aspects of Dhamma that can be valuable to consider. But perhaps that's a question that Tanajan might like to elaborate on.
Understanding what we're talking about is just there right now. It's the moment of beginning to understand the truth of Dhamma. It's not just a word in the sky or somewhere, but it's right here. Every moment it's there. That's why learn to understand little by little, consider what is heard about it, little by little, until it can be another level of understanding with direct awareness of a reality, which we heard a lot about it right now. For example, there is seeing, and we talk about seeing, and right understanding in this sense. Is it the understanding of the nature of seeing, or just the word about it that is real, it's there, and it's gone? That's why it takes quite a long time comparing to the accumulation of ignorance and attachment to whatever is there in life years and years ago. And this is the path. Remember that we don't have to look for other way at all. It's now beginning to understand the truth of what is there from the very beginning, intellectually, so firm, until direct awareness is there of a reality right now, by condition, unexpectedly, the understanding of the anothernness of all dhammas would begin to be known more and more and more, that what we take for all dhammas can be known stage by stage. Now, seeing is not known at stage of direct understanding with direct awareness. Otherwise, it has to be different from now. By what? Awareness of a reality. Suddenly, instantly, just like hearing arising after thinking and so on. That's why learn to let go ignorance at moment of understanding right now. This is the way. So there can be the understanding of what is the path to realize the truth. It has to be understanding only about what is there, from hearing, considering, until it's so firm that it conditioned right understanding of what is there, which hasn't been object of awareness at all right now. And this is the path. That's why we come together, talk about the truth on and on, to not forget about the truth, that it can be known and it has to be known. Otherwise, it's ignorance again and again, on and on and on. And the way to have less clinging, less ignorance is not just thinking about it, but considering, understanding, letting go the idea of self at moment of understanding. That's all. So life goes on little by little, understanding some of what is there at moment of thinking, considering, even it's not directly understanding the nature of that which is there. For example, thinking right now, the nature of it. See right now, the nature of it, the truth of it, begins to appear well, little by little. But it takes quite a long time. And the understanding of it takes quite a long time. It's the moment of letting go. Ignorance and attachment, thinking that it can be known soon, impossible. That's why the understanding of what is there a little more is the path leading to let go ignorance and wrong understanding, and cling to take it for I am something as before, life and life, years and years, that it was taken as something or I or someone all the time. And this is the truth, the absolute truth, enrooted little by little to be firmer and firmer, confidence of the truth. And that is the only way. That's why we talk about what is now appearing, about that which does not appear, but it's there to be known little by little, unexpectedly. And by then, at that time, very surprising, it's just anatta, just like now. But now, what are conditioned to be from moment to moment with understanding, or with no understanding, or with little understanding, on and on and on. And this is so true. All dhammas are anatta. So what is anatta now? Not yet. Or it's not self, it's a reality. It sees, experiences that which is seen. Nothing can arise at that moment, because seeing arises and see.
You mentioned, Drake, that the lobha and the dosa are more apparent. But for example, when there's strong anger, and one knows that there is anger, but actually it's still the thinking about the story of anger and my anger. Is it really the direct understanding of the characteristic of anger, or just a little wise consideration about anger and the harmfulness? So actually it's very subtle. So this is why there has to be a lot of careful consideration and reflection in order for any direct understanding of any Dhamma to be experienced. Like the visible object now, is there direct understanding of visible object, or is there just the wise consideration that what is seen is just that which is visible, or color, not someone there, not something there, not a background? And it's the same with Loba, when there's strong clinging, like when eating one's food. There may be some idea, some knowing that there's strong attachment. But again, is it awareness of attachment, or is it my attachment, something that is there? And it seems attachment is known, but what about the subtle attachment immediately after seeing or hearing, before there's any idea of a person or a sunrise or anything at all? The clinging comes in instantly. And whenever there is any anger, however slight, just a slight annoyance, slight disturbance, or very slight attachment, ignorance is there, completely unknown. And so when there is no understanding, no kindness, no generosity, ignorance is arising again and again and again, just not knowing, not understanding about what appears. But it's now thinking about ignorance and how it must be there, different from understanding directly the characteristic of ignorance. So the path is much more subtle than we think, no matter whether we're talking about the development of calm that leads to jhana, which you mentioned earlier, or the development of understanding of realities. It has to begin with understanding now, understanding what is calm, or understanding what appears. And there has to be the understanding from the start that there's no one there, no one that is calm, no one that has attachment, no one that sees, no one that hears, just different dhammas arising and falling away by conditions. Otherwise, there's this clinging to having progress, to directly understanding, to having greater calm, but not understanding what is true right now. So this is why we always come back to present moment, what can actually be known now. If there is confusion about ignorance or doubting about what it is, the confusion is real, the doubt is real. This is daily life at this moment, whatever appears now. Otherwise, we keep thinking about the direct knowing of sight and sound and memory, but without the very careful considering, there can never be the direct understanding.
I was just going to touch on too, Drake. Sarah just alluded to that aspect of calm. But of course, there can be kusala calm and there can be akusala calm. And I think that's really important to bear in mind, because often people just think of calmness and they think that's skillful or good, or whatever the label they tend to put on it, depending on their understanding. But that wasn't a point I really wasn't going to make. I was just going to make a brief point, essentially, but again, Sammati Satya and Paramata Satya, because there are, when we talk about nama and rupa, they are still concepts, but they refer to Paramata Satya. So some concepts which we use, like Tonajan a moment ago talked about the king, that is a concept which does not represent a Paramata Satya. it represents a conventional truth, that is all. Or like the different names that we all have, they represent conventional truths. And I think it's a useful distinction to make, that there are some concepts like rupa that represent paramata satya. They represent them. They are not them. The words are not them, but they represent them. They point us towards understand. Those point out to us for our to assist our understanding. But there are some concepts, of course, that are nothing to do with higher truths. Okay, I'm very conscious of time now too, and it's getting on.
Yes, anything you would like to say to finish up, Ajahn? I can't hear you,
Are you
Ajahn.
speaking, John?
Sorry, I forgot to turn on. That's why we have to understand the difference between the Paramata Satya and Sammuti Satya. People use the word calm or calmness. What do they mean? But what is the truth of what is said, the reality which is calm? See, without the teachings of Buddha, we think that the akusala moment is calm. But in truth, it's a reality which is a condition for the moment to be kusala or kusala vipaka, whatever is wholesome. Otherwise, it's not there without such reality. That's why we learn about the different realities, which are the mental factors, to have no wrong understanding of the truth. When one is in the forest, no one there, is so calm. Someone might have such idea. But in truth, it's not calm without the teachings of the Buddha about the ultimate truth of that very moment. People have wrong understanding. That's why we learn to understand one reality at a time, to understand what is calm, the true calm, not the sammuti calm at all. Can calm be akusala?
No. It has
That's
to be kusala.
when we think that we are calm, it's not calm. That's why we learn a little more to let go ignorance and attachment and wrong understanding. Because without careful considering the nature of calm, it has to be a moment of kusala, right? That's why we learn about one reality at a time, closer and closer to its nature. But it depends on whether what will be the object of understanding, or what is the meaning of appear well, to what degree to understand, not the nature. So the thought can be wrong, even if so very little is wrong. That's why only understanding can understand the truth, no matter in words or the nature of it. No, not wrong at all. But when there's no understanding, ignorance is there. So it takes what it is, not as it is at all. That's why depend, have the refuge, the three refuges, just to understand the truth, which cannot be changed at all, because the seeing sees, the hearing hears, and it's not permanent at all, just in the moment and then gone, without such closer and closer understanding of what is there. There can never be the letting go of the wrong understanding and clinging at all. So now we know what is meant by refuge, not just to pay respect, but to understand that which is there as it hasn't been known before. So now it's time